Roll call, please. Whatever we are called, I know. Roll call, please.
Miranda? Here. Maniscalco? Here. Hurtek? Clendenin?
Here.
Carlson? Vieira?
Here.
We have physical quorum.
Councilman Carlson has an appointment, and Councilwoman Lynn Hurtak is watching this and has, I believe it is a city appointment as well. So just FYI, but we have 4 people here for a quorum. Mr. McCrae, go for it, sir.
Good afternoon, Seth McCrae, CR Director. As it relates to the agenda, prior to the break, we had mentioned bringing forward the FY26 budget. I was informed that one of the presenters for item 8 has a flight to catch, so we're asking that
Yes.
me move forward first at this time for the presentation, and then we will then.
Motion by Councilman Clendenin, seconded by Board Member Maniscalco. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, go for it. Yes, sir.
All right, and at this time, I would like to call up Mr. Kareem Brantley with Integral to present the OTBI project in Ashley East on Columbus Drive.
Yes, sir. A good, what are we, afternoon, sir? Roughly how long do you think you need for your presentation?
You know what, can we do 7 to 10 minutes?
Let's give you 10. How about we'll give you 11? There you go. Why not? Give you a safety net. I know, right?
It's like a multiple choice.
And if you need more time, obviously, you're fine, but just so we keep it.
All right. Well, my name is Kareem Brantley. I represent a firm called the Integral Group. I run the division out of Florida, which is Integral, Florida. It's our offices here in Tampa are 1726 East 7th Avenue. It is my pleasure to be a part of the Tampa community. I've grown up in Florida. Relatives in Tampa come through this part when we would go to the attractions and all of these things. So very familiar with Tampa, and I appreciate you doing what you do as counselors for the city. And most of the folks who were here in support of the project had to go on and conduct the rest of their day. But I'm thankful to the residents of the city of Tampa who have backed this project. Also especially thankful to our partners at the Tampa Bay EDC. We responded to an RFP on this project. We were asked to do certain things. I think we've done those things and in some cases exceeded them. But more importantly, when people from the community have talked to us, or when we have talked to people from the community, we've had the opportunity to really understand the needs of the community. I think we also have had the opportunity to understand the financial constraints of the community. No project, including ours, is going to be a silver bullet for solving affordable housing. But one of the great things about the project that we present today, and we make this request, is that it's more than just about a housing project. It's more than just about a commercial facility that's going to be there. It's block development. And so what we've done here is a 2-part component. Again, if there was all the money in the world, we would do the whole thing, the whole neighborhood, if that was the wish of the community. That's not our reality. The reality we have is what we have presented to the board and what we have presented to the city council when we got our site control. And let me just go through that. I don't know how I bring up, there it is. All right. So with that, let me just go to the next slide. Do I control it or they control it? This here? Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. Okay, all right, thank you. So with my minutes remaining, let me just go quickly. I just want to get through who we are. I'll introduce our firm, the East Tampa Live Learn Development, Ashley East Tampa, the residential component, the project budget, and then the strategy that we set forth. So this is a little bit about our company. We're about 200 plus employees. We're vertically integrated. We do everything from development down to property management. We were the first 32 years in business. We invented, in a way, mixed income housing. And it was because of the Olympics were coming to Atlanta in 1996, and they had a public housing project across the street. They needed to do something about it because there was no way that you were going to have Atlanta on the national stage and have this public housing project. Our CEO and chairman came up with the idea, well, we should have mixed income housing. That had never been done before in a financial structure. So we created the legal and regulatory framework to do that. Now all of us benefit from that today. I am proud to carry on that legacy for the state of Florida as a part of it. These are some of the partners that we have partnered with over the years. So our experience in public-private partnerships and as a community developer is well entrenched in our history. We understand that everything begins with us with talking with the community first. a little bit about our partners. You know them better than I do. But it's my pleasure to work with Craig Richard and Tony Brown on a daily basis with regards to facilitating all the needs of the community as well as the property. There'll be 2 phases in this project. Phase 1 will be the multifamily. We've been able to secure the financing to move forward with this. So we're a little bit past feasibility. So feasibility was something that we started with when we got the award. We went and spent our money to go through the due diligence to make sure that we had the geotechnical studies, all the things that we need so that when we came forth before CRA board or before councilors, we would have a story to tell to say what we have done thus far. Phase 2 will be the commercial development, which will be the learn part of the development. Today, we focus on the multifamily housing component and the infrastructure that's going to be needed to serve the entire block building. Here's just a site plan of the area and what we have planned to do. This has already been in conjunction with the planning department here for the city. So we've responded to the things that we've heard from the planning department as we've submitted inquiries and questions about code and regulations with regards to the site. So what you see here is what we believe is a plan that is acceptable to those who are going to grade the paper to determine if this is a site plan we can move forward with. Here's just to give you an idea of what the whole plan is from the multifamily side. So this is the arrival point. This is the sense of arrival right off of Columbus. You can see an open linear park that's going to run along Columbus for the use of the residents. It will be in addition to all the other amenities that I'll talk about on another slide. But this is just some east, west, and south profiles just to give you an idea. We pulled the building away from the highway. Residents said, we don't want the building too close to the highway because of the noise. So in trying to make a satisfactory effort to make sure we can do as much as we can for every interest that was expressed to us, that is the site plan that you have today that I shared before. We put the portico shade there because we thought about residents who may need assistance when they get out of a car and it's raining. Now you can pull under the portico shade. You can get out of the car, not be rushed, not trip over your cane when you're trying to get into the building. So really been thoughtful about how we do this. Just a timeline on this. Time is of the essence. You all know if you don't move projects forward, only thing that's going to happen is the cost is going to build. And so what we have done is we've looked at our financing approach. We've done both a gap method and a tax credit calculation method. We've looked at what is the minimum amount that we would need to facilitate this development on the path of financing that we've chosen, which is 4% low-income housing tax credits. 2024, we got the award. The RFP went out in 2023. We got site control in January of this year. Financing was secured in February of 25 because we didn't waste any time. We made sure we communicated with Enterprise and some of the other financing folks. Those letters are included in your packet. East Tampa CRA approval. We went and met with the CAC. Again, we heard what they said. They said that they had a financial need. We responded. We said, hey, we usually get awards in one chunk. If you need to finance it over time, we hear you loud and clear. Let us go back to our financiers and see how we can structure this. We think if you were to award this project today, we have a calendar or a schedule that takes us into May of next year for financial closing and construction start. This is one of the areas that we went back to. In the RFP, the city asked us for 20% of the units to be at 50% AMI or less. We've now gotten to 32% of those units because when we talked to the CAC on our first meeting, they expressed the concern about the number of affordable units. And so we heard that loud and clear. We went back and we put 32% instead of 20%. You can see the rest of it. Almost 70% of the units are at 60% AMI or less. So what we're really talking about is people in two-person households making $40,000 or less in many cases. So included in there are 30% AMI, which are the level of living standard right above homelessness. So we think that we've built a community. We use an average income test strategy or approach where we put some 80s in there. Some people didn't understand the strategy, so let me make sure I explain it. We did that because if you're in a 60% AMI on a traditional low-income housing tax credit approach, when you earn out of the 60, where do you go? There's not a lot for people who are in that next missing middle, so we want to put a few units in there so those folks don't have to terminate their lease and they can stay in their neighborhood. Once you're above 80 and you're making a little bit more, there are more options out there in other parts of the city and in other parts of East Tampa. Maybe you're in the home buying business at that point in time. You can see the unit mix there. I think I talked about the AMIs. This is just an example of some of the projects we've completed and what they look like on the inside. The amenities in this particular building, we have a self-kiosk bistro. You will walk in if you wanted to get some Tylenol, you wanted to get a sandwich, you wanted to get some chips, you wanted to get those type of items. They're there. It runs by a computer. You pop your phone or you put your credit card. You check out, self-serve, just like you do in some of the airport locations. That will be in here. So we understand that this is not luxury housing, but these are things and amenities that we can put in the building that don't take up a lot of space and withdraw from the efficiency of the building, but it becomes an amenity for a resident to upgrade their standard of living. We talked to the community, and one of the things that were expressed to us was the symbolism of the East Tampa neighborhood and who represents East Tampa. And so we came up with one concept. We said we would have future engagement with residents and really understand what is important to them from some of the amenities in the outside exterior of the building, how it looks. It's in an industrial district, so we've patterned an example out of that, but that doesn't mean that it's the final skin of the building. But we will have continued engagement with the neighborhood and those who are interested in this project. But this was just one example where we wanted to create like a walk of fame here in Tampa along the sidewalk and in that open area park that we've created. Here, one of the things that occurs inside of our community development buildings is that we have support services for residents. So sometimes residents may need to work overnight, and we arrange for those services through our nonprofit. It is a separate entity, but it's called the Ascent Project, and that's what we do in all of our projects. Local hiring. This is important to me because I have a non-traditional, I'm an electrical engineer. I don't know how I got into development, but it was just because I stumbled into it. There was a piece of property that I fell in love with that was in my neighborhood, and I wanted to do something about it. And I ended up doing that project and fell in love with doing this business. And so if I could just have 2 minutes.
Of course. Yeah, we'll give you 5. You're fine. I mean, I just like to keep track. But yeah,
No problem. Youth Bill came out of that. So we partnered with Youth Bill for probably the last, I don't know, 10 years or so. So we do it in all the territories that we operate. In Florida, we would do that here as well in Tampa. Here's a picture of one of our employees on the left, Melissa Fanfan, with some of the youth from the Youth Bill and the administrators of the Youth Bill program in that particular city. So there was a young man here that was working at the CRA. I gave him my information. I said, listen, you're the kind of person when you're in college and you want to do this, we want to expose you to this. And the reason we want to do this is because we're at a deficit in this industry of people saying, I no longer want to do that work. It's not sexy. It's out in the sun. It's hot. But if they really look at what construction brings home, I have contractors who tell me that their children are no longer interested in running the business because they saw how hard their parents worked at it. But there's so much opportunity here. If we can get young folks to be interested either in the trade work, if they have no desire to go to college and get a traditional degree in that path, maybe perhaps they can start in a trade and then understand how the business of the trade works, and maybe we can create a couple small businesses. So that will be our goal. MWBE goals, the city didn't ask for it, but we committed 50% of our contracting to MWBE. We believe in it. We've done it. We know it works. It's not that hard to do it in Florida, so why not commit to it and be accountable to it? Art, we put art in all of our projects. This is a personal thing for me. I think when you come home and you see inspiration, you feel inspiration, you perform inspiration, and that's what we made sure we did here, or we will do here with your support. From a project budget standpoint, site acquisition and parking represents about 16%. Soft costs about 18%, and 56% the bulk of it goes towards the construction. You can see the breakdown. We went back, initially we asked for the full amount all in 1 year. We heard the CRA and the CAC, clearly the CRA administration, and we went back and broke it down over the years. We are constrained to a normal construction time schedule. I wish I could push it out for 5 years, but we eventually have to finish the building, and those components of finishing mean people have to get paid. So we stretch it out as far as we can, and we think that this is something that's definitely doable. If you think it's doable, we will move forward with this expeditiously and get this project done. Just to note here, we have the CRA requirements were a 50% match. We're at 352%. So again, we're not talking about feasibility anymore. We're saying if we get this award today, we're going. We're closing next year. You don't have to worry about, are those guys going to do it, or do they have to go back and do this other thing? We finished the geotechnical. We found a void in the site. The way the reason the site looks the way it looks, the way the parking is structured, is because we cannot build on top of that void. So all the infrastructure underground, the way the parking is set up, was very well thought out with our architects, but is also responsive to all that due diligence that we did already. And we can share more of that if necessary, but I don't, you know, there's nothing we're going to do. We can't build on top of it. It's 118 units, and all of the units are affordable by definition. So they're all 80% and low. And as I showed in the previous slide, the majority of these are 60% AMI. But we put in a few 80s just so that we can absorb folks who are making higher income. We want that. We want people to continually improve and make more income and not be displaced. Put in this slide just about CRA compliance. I can move forward because we wouldn't have gotten here if we weren't compliant with the state of Florida and the CRA outline. So I thank you for the time. I hope I didn't rush through anything, but I really wanted to make sure that you got a feel of how we really did a lot of homework on this project and got before you very thoughtfully and really want to do something special. It's a transformative project. It's not just a single site. It's block building, and hopefully you can support this project.
Thank you, sir. Great presentation. I see Board Member Maniscalco light on.
Thank you very much. Great presentation.
Thank you.
I like the fact that a third of the housing is at is 50% or below AMI. So families, I would assume, well, I don't want to assume. So if you have a family that needs a 2-bedroom and they're at the 30% AMI, would they be eligible?
Yes.
So people that are at the you know, lowest income level, a family would be able to move in here.
That's right.
Okay.
And just to highlight, we don't get a, you know, we could be slick and try to say, well, we're just going to put all the need units or the lowest set aside on studios. We don't get that opportunity. We distribute them pro rata. So
Yeah, because that's, you know, that's one of the concerns. It's not just individuals that need the housing, it's the families that need the housing.
that's right.
And I noticed in the amenities you have a computer room. Is that, I mean, I saw computers in a room. Is that just an image, or is that something that is going to be a community space?
That's a community space, because what we found in all of our projects is not everyone can afford some of the equipment that they need, and we've also found young people who, let me just do one side story. I had a young man in a project that I was doing. He was riding the Metro bus down so many miles because it had free Wi-Fi on the bus, and he needed to take his finals. That was probably about maybe 8 years ago I heard that story, and I said, going forward, we will always have Wi-Fi in all the community areas. It won't be enough for you to be watching Netflix all day and taking up all the bandwidth. You can do that in your unit, but basic internet infrastructure will be in the common areas, and then to this room, there will be computers that we provide that residents will log into, and they can use that if they don't have a computer in their home.
Okay, no, the reason I ask is because some people can't afford a computer, are unable to, and having access to a computer, what if they wanted to start an online business? I was with a gentleman Saturday, and his life story was, I had nothing. With my roommate, we had an apartment, and I started my business out of the bedroom. Now he's wealthy and he's on his own. But just having access to a computer, they may not have the money, they may not have the iPad, but it's just another opportunity.
That's right.
My question would then be, I think it's a wonderful project.
Thank you.
And you're serious. You touched on the 50% goal, you know, regarding WBE or MBE. You discussed that. Of course, you know, it's 118 units, so it's a sizable project that would be impactful. My question then would be to Mr. McCray, what was the recommendation from the CAC? I saw that it's a multi-year $9.7 million project or ask that's spread out? What was the recommendation from staff and the CAC?
Good afternoon again, Cedric McCray, Tampa CRA Director, East Tampa CRA Manager. In this stead, the recommendation was to move forward with the 9.7 million ask. And there was a lot of conversation from the CAC. The vote at that point was 6-5 from
Okay.
the CAC members at that time.
So in regards to what we had earlier before lunch and having to reprogram, and so if we were to approve the full amount, would we have to reprogram, go through all that discussion that we went through earlier this morning?
Yes, because it's a multi-year commitment, we would have to make sure that we make the adjustments budgetarily moving forward from.
And who would be affected? You know, where would you take that money from? Because it was about housing rehab and, you know, all that.
Yes, I can't say specifically which line item we would have to adjust. We have money in the, our continuous improvement, neighborhood infrastructure, and then I will allow Ms. Parks to speak to it as well.
Thank you, Director McCray. I
Yes,
was
ma'am.
just going to let you know the line items that it will come from. So at this point, we have the request for the initial allocation of $2.125 million for the land acquisition part, and then we have the remaining $7.575 million dispersed over a 3-year term. It will be FY 26 2.5, 27, 28, 2.5 as well. These funds will be drawn from the unit creation and conversion, neighborhood infrastructure, and East Tampa continuous projects account.
Okay, thank you very much.
Board Member Hurtak, or Clendenin, whichever one was first.
I love this project. I think this is what we saw earlier was a smaller project that doesn't have the ability to go for LIHTC funding to get some of the funds that this project was able to do. My only hesitation, and this is just more of a personal nature, I really hate parking lots. Just the added money for that kills me. So especially because the city of Tampa, this is our land, and we're donating. We own this land, do we not?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm gonna support it, but that's just if I didn't have to put in the money to buy the other lot, I would be happy.
Thank you, Madam. Board Member Clendenin.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Can
Can
I speak to it?
Yes, sir.
If we could get down to a parking ratio that was suboptimal, we would do that. What I mean by suboptimal is people would come home and then they wouldn't even know if they had a place to park. So when you have, to do this type of community building, you have to work with the canvas you're given. In this case, the city can't expand its land east or west or north or south on either one of these parcels. So we're doing everything we can, but we also want to make sure that we're responsible, not having cars spill out into the right of way, and then it become a nuisance for the people who supported the project. So we put the parking in the rear. I hear you loud and clear. That was intentional. That also was a response to the void that was on the corner of the property. And then the last piece is we're putting in infrastructure, and that's why the additional land is needed. We're not even tapping into the retention pond to the east. We're doing all of that underground, and you need land in order to retain that water.
Okay. And is there a reason that you're not tapping into that?
Capacity.
Okay. Okay.
That you guys won't do your new test or your study until next August, I believe.
Okay, and we can't wait for that. And then I guess my other question along with that is, you said that you want to have adequate parking, but a conversation that we're having on council right now is what does that look like? Because we realize that our current parking minimums are too big in many instances. I mean, just speaking, is this overparked?
No, this is not overparked.
Okay,
We're gonna ask for a waiver or variance.
okay,
because
okay.
But we still want to at least have a one-to-one.
Okay.
And then we're also accommodating the
And
larger parking for the shared
That's
live
what I wanted to know. Because I want to know just about the parking for this, not about the parking for the economic driver. So this is just parking just for this development.
There are a few spaces in shared
Okay.
parking, but this is not overparked. We're asking for a waiver. As a matter of fact, our civil team was like, you can't do that. And I said, no, we're gonna consult with the city, but they felt we needed more parking. We said
Okay.
we don't wanna have that much parking. So-
Okay, well then, just the visual screamed a lot more parking, so,
And
okay.
can I add to that?
Oh,
Just
yes,
as-
ma'am. I'm
thanks.
sorry.
No, that's okay. I just want to add to that. We have been in discussions with, their team, Abby Feely, sorry. We have been in discussions with their team, in fact, using the .8 that we've been using for Live Local. They feel that their product that they've built in other places, they need a minimum of 1 space per unit at least. We've also talked about, you know, if we start at one place and then maybe something would happen or later we could get enough money to build a garage versus, but as you know, a garage at $30,000 a space just blows the affordability of the project out of the water. So we have been in very robust conversations about how do we minimize that, how do we maybe do things in phases where we can start out and then try something, but we want to make sure the project's successful. So I just want you to know that we've had those conversations. And also, they will have a CBA with this project, given the amount of money that they're getting. So the WIMBY and other commitments that was spoken to, those would go into that CBA
Yes.
as part of this project as well.
Absolutely, and that's actually what I was thinking, that was gonna be my last thing, was definitely what you're doing in terms of committing to small businesses, you know, women-owned, minority-owned businesses is just phenomenal. This is exactly what we're looking for. It feels like you've watched a lot of what we've done, or at least talked to the right
32
members of
years.
staff yeah, but just like literally thinking about what our council is doing, and so I do appreciate that. And then, so maybe what happens here is that we build it, or you build it, you see if maybe we don't need to add more parking for the other section, maybe there's this parking can be shared during the day, in the evening kind of thing. That's just, yeah. I just want to make sure we're not over parking. And I do agree with you. Parking belongs right next to the interstate. We've already gotten calls and emails from people saying, I'm worried about air quality. And so putting it far away from the interstate is just kind of the no-brainer. You put it on that side of the lot. So I appreciate that, and thank you. I still don't love it, the parking part, but I do support the project. I think it's fabulous.
Thank you, Madam. Board Member Clendenin.
You know, it's interesting because I said 1 for 1, right, on parking? So
We think that that's the right
I mean,
minimum.
that's pretty conservative. I mean, you know, it doesn't get much better than that. My biggest concern, and you know, not that I'm object to the proposal because of this, but and Ms. Feely and I have had this discussion about other projects, and so I'm just going to say this for the record on these projects. One, for the city of Tampa and how we're developing things, are we repeating the same mistakes of the sins of the past? You know, I see this as a 100% affordable project, not truly a mixed unit. So you're institutionalizing all poor people, or you know, less than, you know, not affluent people with all poor people. And is this the project that is going to appear its ugly head in 20 years? That we're going to say, why in the world did we do that? And I'm kind of like, I'm surprised with this one. I'm surprised with a couple others. Like, how are we doing this again? I mean, they made this mistake in the 50s and 60s when they institutionalized poor and, to be quite frank, you know, people that don't look like me, all in one place, so that then the kids grow up and it's generational poverty, and there's no examples for success, you know, and the neighbor next door. It's all just people struggling every day to get by, you know, saying I'm more worried about the generational issue with kids. So I much prefer to see some of the examples that we see around the city and around the country and around the world now, when we see true mixed developments where you have, you know, you don't institutionalize poor people all in one place. You have examples for the kids to grow up in. I mean, I get what you're working for here, and this is a problematic piece of property. You know, it's not an ideal location. And what is the assurance that the other part of this project is going to get built, and how is it being funded?
Go ahead. and
Just a little,
Board Member Hurtak.
just a wee bit of clap back to you.
Go ahead.
Our salary, we're under 80%.
I know, I understand. I know, I get it.
So this was an RFP. This property, we bought this property, the city did with CDBG funds, and then we put it out for RFP. And there's an agreement that goes with the award of the RFP. In that agreement that was negotiated by myself, Rebecca John, it requires first that they build the housing. So, because that's our greatest need. And as you know, our greatest need is in that 80 and below units right now.
Remember, we had that conversation,
Yeah.
though. Because you and I have had the conversation
So-
about my concern about
But
having.
you just triggered a thought in my head while I was sitting there that while we put these under an affordability period for X amount of time, I don't know that we can't in 15 years say, now we're gonna convert X number of units over to market. So while that thought just came in, and I'm gonna work on that in how we look at these things, I think knowing where we are right now, and given that we don't want affordability for 5 years and then everything becomes market, because that's how we're getting to what we really need to serve our community. There may be an opportunity to look at that as the inventory grows, and perhaps those needs are different. So that's just a thought. But the RFP, the agreement for the RFP outside of this funding agreement requires that there is performance and that both parts of the project are built within a certain time frame.
Okay, so we have that performance.
Yes, we
agreement.
do.
Okay, good. And I know I probably had known that at one point in my life, but.
Well,
that-
it's
that-
been a
that-
while since that award and that agreement came to you, and then they started securing their own funding, and then it was identified they need some assistance with that, and that's where we're here today. But all these pieces are building on one another, and they need to be in concert with one another.
Okay,
Yes.
good. Thank you for that clarification. So yeah, it's, I mean, I'm gonna, and I just want to remind everybody, this is what, just right about $80,000 per unit? Is that
A
what?
little less than that, I believe, but
So, I mean, just for clarification, compared to what we saw this morning, this is 80,000 at substantially more, and I know there's other alternative forms of funding that you've been able to acquire, and of course the land donation and things like that, but it's still, it's just not quite at the burden that, you know, per unit and per subsidy. I mean, it might be interesting to see the total breakdown of what the cost of government is for this, but it's still, it's relatively modest for the return on the investment, and again, the placement, the location, everything about it, it kind of checks off a lot of boxes that you know I'm happy with. I just want to say as we move forward on these things, let's just be careful about not creating problematic projects that don't have mixed use with mixed type, you know, people that are working together, and we create a better society as we move forward and don't repeat the same sins. Thank you.
and I would just only say to you, just from a policy standpoint, I will join in contributing to your lobbyist efforts in Tallahassee, because a lot of this is not under our local control. This comes from the federal government and from the state, and I would love to join your advisory team when you want to talk about these things, because I think that there's a path to do exactly what you're saying, but there has to be enough people lobbying for it.
Thank you. Board Member Hurtak, second round.
Thank you. So what it says, what it sounds like you're saying is that you get the LIHTC funding for 80% and below.
That is
Yeah,
exactly
okay, so
how it
there,
works.
that's your,
No, I
But-
it.
no, no, no. Yeah.
I do, I get it.
okay.
When we got how we got here,
Yeah,
it just, I wanted to express that maybe uncomfortable.
Okay, no, and that's
and I
fair.
appreciate it.
And so this has nothing to do with the project, but I do want to talk to Mr. McCrae about the fact that when these come in front of us, one of the things I would love to see in the future, and just the housing team in general, is if this is an RFP of ours, just sort of similar, I'm also talking to Ms. Feely and her team, if it's an RFP of ours, we need to have a presentation first by staff saying, this is the RFP, we did this. Because quite honestly, it doesn't do us any, like, why would we shoot this down? We need to know going in that this is something that we put out an RFP for, we provided the land for, we did all this. Hearing this in a vacuum does not help us make a decision. And I think that's a really, really big, important point compared to what we heard earlier today. Again, it would still be it would be helpful to have a quick presentation by staff before we allow a presenter to present. Just again, it just gives me a whole different mindset. Having known about a little bit of this project and then talking to you about it and just remembering when we bought it, because I asked today during break, I was like, didn't we buy that? And But again, that would be really helpful information, because this is building upon what we as a council and we as a board are trying to provide in terms of housing. But just like you all, we're all super busy and we may not remember. So it would just be it would be great to help lead in, help build that, because this is, this is basically a public-private partnership, but it wasn't advertised that way, if that makes any sense. And so he came in because we put an RFP out, like, these are the things we want to fund. And so we're grateful for these partnerships, but I think we need to make it a little more robust on how we share that going forward, so we know, like, these are the things where we're going forward with that we really want to earmark and make sure we have funding for. So.
Yes, ma'am, point taken.
Okay, what is the pleasure of council?
Second.
We have a motion by Board Member Maniscalco, second by Board Member Clendenin. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you, councilors.
Thank you. Okay, we go to our next and last item, I believe it is. Mr. McCray, go for it.
Yes, good afternoon again. Cedric McCray, Tampa CRA Director. At this particular point in time, we are here to present to you all the draft FY26 budget for the Tampa CRA. And we can pull the PowerPoint up. Appreciate it. And you will hear from.
Sorry, Mr. McCray, for
Yes,
purposes
sir.
of time, roughly how much do you need?
Well, we can be done within maybe 10 minutes, and
Okay,
then
we'll give you
glad
15. That's fine.
for any questions, but it probably will be less than 10.
Let's do 15.
Okay. And I have a meeting at 2:30, so unfortunately,
Okay, so we have
But-
to because of 1, 2, 3. Oh, forget it, my math was off.
yeah, and I've already talked to Mr. McCray about what I would like to see in terms of some changes.
Yes.
Well,
Actually, we did. We were able to
different
do that.
changes, but yes.
Yes.
If I could just say, just very quickly, I just would like to see in these individual budgets, we're seeing 26, but I also wanted to see 25 and 25 revised budget, the consumption, the funds available, like what's encumbered and what's still available from this past year. I think it will help allow us to see clearer. So I asked for that between this meeting and the next CRA meeting. So if I have to leave, that's my request. Okay.
Yes. Thank you, and we will provide that information to the members of the board. We will present each CRA separately, and Ms. Orr will be the first manager up.
Good afternoon, Courtney Orr, CRA Development Manager for the Urban Core. And I'm going to start the presentation showing the maps of the 9 budgets you're going to be hearing about today, and starting with Central Park. So there's some just basic information about Central Park, its size, when it was established, its sunset year, and then for fiscal year 26, we have the finalized information to budget little over $2 million, which is a 43% increase over fiscal year 25's funds. So each slide you see here is going to look the same for every single one of the districts that we're going to be talking about. We have it in by Roman numeral, all the different line items within our budget. Operations and administration are going to cover things like salaries, cost allocation for the use of for the partnerships with the staff of other departments. And if you do see a 0, it's not that we don't have money in that line item, it's because funding will roll over sufficiently. So just wanted to preface that when you see 0, it's not that there's not any money in that line item, it's just it wasn't necessary to be allotted in those line items for fiscal year 26. So redevelopment and investment, well, communications and outreach, we'll see, has a little bit of money in there, but we're gonna have to end up reallocating additional funding for the RFP that we will advertise. So eventually we'll have to put additional funding in there when we land on the exact number of what that RFP should be put on the street for. So redevelopment and investment, just to give you some ideas, that's of what is contained in that particular area. Pre-development grants, commercial exterior grants, commercial interior grants, special projects grants. So that's the money that is in our redevelopment investment, and you can see I didn't have to put necessarily a lot of money because we do have rollover funding coming from fiscal year 25. Affordable housing, that is the 30% set aside for that, of that 2 million. Capital projects are going to include things like wayfinding signage. We're finally getting that project off the ground, so the wayfinding signage in the urban core, monies that are allotted toward it, public art opportunities, and the ADA improvements in the parks. So then,
Board Member Clendenin. Okay. Thank you.
okay, and the other ones are 0.
So, the rollover, and did we get a report on the rollover on the CRAs?
That's literally what I asked, that was what I just put forward, that's what I want to see.
Yeah, because
is-
it's difficult to approve a budget without seeing
Correct.
those lines.
And that's why I asked for it. And actually, if somebody just wants to throw this up. Here, pass that over. Yeah, that's East Tampa specific, but
Yeah.
it gives you an idea of what I thought was so good. And they already make this in-house. If we could switch to the Wolf. This tells you revised budget for the previous year, expenditure or what's already been expended, funds that are now available, and so it really gives you a much better, clearer idea.
Yeah, so I think we need this for each CRA.
Yeah,
because
that is what I asked for.
Yeah, okay. Good.
Between now and next time. But I asked if they could get it to us beforehand, they can just email it to us so we can take a look at it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, good. 'Cause only because of I have some observations, and but unless I have all that information, I won't be able to intelligently talk to it. So okay, good. Thank you.
Okay. Madam President, there. Okay, so we covered Central Park. Now we're going to move on to Channel District. There again, you can see the acreage of Channel District, its establishment year, its sunset year, and then how much money we are expecting to receive in fiscal year 26, which is a 17% increase over fiscal year 25. So here again, you'll see operations and administration, and what that entails as far as cost allocation of partnering with our departments in the city, and salaries, communication and outreach. I plugged in 45,000 there. Again, not knowing exactly what the RFP will be advertised for outreach and communications. Affordable housing, the required 30% of that 13.4 million is the 4 million you see there. Capital projects and infrastructure, we have a lot. A lot of it's already been budgeted because of the ongoing work for the infrastructure improvements that are happening in the Channel District. And we have a couple more streets that we'll be working on. So I put in 5 million for the Whiting Street project that will get started soon. And let's see what else, if there's anything there to highlight. Washington Street Park renovation, as you're aware, that is going to be renovated, Washington Street Park. And then we did purchase the land at 810 Channelside Drive for that to be developed into a new urban park. We have, I didn't put in community policing this year because we do have funding already allocated for security cameras that the CAC requested. So monies are already set aside for that. And then nothing for historic preservation or quality of life due to having rollover funds. And here's the big budget. 870 acres. There's a core and non-core. Money's distributed equally, though, within those two areas of core and non-core. Expires and sunsets in 2043. We realized 29.9, so almost $30 million for fiscal year 26 to be budgeted, with that being an 8% increase over fiscal year '25. There again, operations and administration's covered for salaries, et cetera. And affordable housing is almost 9 million of that $30 million TIF will realize. And then capital, see if there's some highlights I can give you on. So yeah, infrastructure capital, that's going to be things like the just neighborhood improvements that we're working on. Again, gateway and wayfinding signage. We do have funding in there for the agreement for SPP, the monies that we pay toward reimbursement of right-of-way improvements for the SPP Water Street development. Parks ADA improvements, monies are still set aside for the Jackson House roadway improvement project when ready. And then, of course, we have a lot of the funding agreements that require a multi-year contribution within each budget. So we have that prepared in the cash flow of how much we need to set aside for each of the funding agreements that have been established with Straz, Tampa Theater, Tampa Museum of Art, for example. And then the debt service, the 4.2 million you see there, that is to reimburse for the work that has been done on the convention center, the improvements done on the convention center.
Board Member Clinton, go back to that slide.
That's okay, I can talk off of it. Was there money, are y'all anticipating in your budget in the, specifically in the channel side, whatever's happened in the adjacent quadrants for interconnectivity between these new projects that are coming up, like the expansion of Water Street, how channel side integrates and connects to that, street improvements with Daryl's projects and Gas Works and Ybor Harbor? Are you anticipating street park improvements, interconnectivity there in this budget, in these budgets, or in these capital improvement projects?
Yeah, the only thing that we have set aside currently in the Channel District budget is the current work being done by Kimmons in the infrastructure work.
Okay.
So nothing necessarily
so probably
projected.
as we're moving forward in the duration of these things, we probably have to start thinking about that if we move along, of how these neighborhoods are going to interconnect with each other, so that we have that in there. Okay. And is there a report, so I know what we're setting aside, this 30%, is there a report what that bucket looks like? With the cash
Of the 30%?
The 30% cash on hand, how much money we have cash on hand for affordable housing in downtown and in Channel Side and Ybor? Those three CRAs are the ones that most interested.
Yeah, and we can calculate that. We have that. We have whatever the rollover
if you
amount.
Email me, I'd appreciate that for the future. And I had a question about the debt services. You answered that. I think that was all I had now. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Board Member Miranda.
And I know it's just a little awful what this is, but we're talking about big money here, and like always, it's very useful to have it, especially if we're going to use it the right way. Has anyone from any parts of any sports been in contact with the CRA or the administration regarding any amount of properties or monies they may want to get from the CRA regarding some future or maybe non-existing stadium?
I'll let Director McCray take that.
Good afternoon. No, sir. The answer is no.
And I don't know if this was the administration or not, just for our knowledge, what would logically, in the mind of anyone operating on this side of the government, if some big space was to be bought or leased or whatever between two entities, not us involved, it's their property, of course, they can do what they want, and something is built on it, does that continue to be revenue for the city if it's a stadium, or if it's building high rises and restaurants and hotels and apartments or something like that? Have we ever done a study on that?
If you could repeat the question one more time, Mr. Moran?
Even I forgot the question. No, what it is if there's a certain plot of land that doesn't change and you build something big like a stadium on it, what revenues, any, does the city get in tax, ad valorem taxes or any other benefits?
Sorry. Abby Feely, So right now, most of the stadiums are on county property, so they're non-taxed.
Uh-huh.
So
But we haven't compared it with
But-
anything that could go there that would be taxable, am I correct?
if it's not government-owned
No,
or a
no, it's not
government
government
facility,
owned.
it would
But
pay
if
tax.
that developers to develop it for other uses, condominiums, apartments, restaurants, whatever, then the city is not losing paying, they're losing in other tax revenues they would have gotten instead of paying. The average taxpayer. It's all right.
I don't, yeah, can we,
Yeah.
okay.
No, the reason I want to know, I don't know what the value would be long-term to the taxpayers versus something that we do that's not a value to the taxpayers.
But I think those types of conversations would come to you. We wouldn't
No, I
talk
understand
about them
that.
now saying that, oh, this is within the
But since I'm
CRA,
looking
and
at
right
big
now we
money
think it's
here.
gonna project this, but then now it's not, so we would, that would come in a different thread.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then I just have one question, or rather a comment for my colleagues when it comes to affordable housing. We just had 2 people coming to us in East Tampa. And if you think East Tampa's expensive, wait till they're building downtown. So I have a feeling this affordable housing money, when that RFP comes out, they will be asking for assistance as well. So I think that we owe it to, I think that's kind of what we're seeing right now, is that how piling that money up could be beneficial. We don't need to have a conversation about it. I'm just saying, it could be something as the RFP comes forward. But again, I do want to talk about that later, about RFPs. Anyway, so
I am ready for
I
that
know you-
conversation
I know.
when it comes.
I know you are. But I think today is a great example of why we're stockpiling that money, for better or for worse language. So we just finished with downtown. We had some
Great.
good questions,
Wow.
including stadium conversations. So you missed that.
Oh, damn it. Okay, there you go. Continue.
Okay, well, that wraps up downtown. I'll hand it over to Director McCray for Drew Park, and we'll continue on.
And Councilwoman Hurtak has to leave for a city appointment.
Yes, I do. I'm very sorry. I don't have anything for later, so thank you. Will do. Budget.
If I could have the PowerPoint back up, please. Thank you. Okay, Drew Park, there was a 12% increase in the tax increment revenue that has come forward for FY 2026. And operations and administration, we have allocation for affordable housing initiatives, and then we also have some monies for infrastructure improvements. If you recall, Ms. Astor Keys was here, I believe, a month or so ago, speaking on behalf for Drew Park, and they've made a few requests as a CAC, and some of those things are now formally coming into fruition related to a neighborhood park, and we're currently working with Parks and Recreation now to complete that process, and looking at 100% completion of the drawings later this summer, and then hopefully we'll be inviting members of the board to a groundbreaking at some point by the end of the year. She also expressed the need for mobility, connectivity, and safety improvements, and they've allocated funding to that, the upgrades and permit-ready designs that are being completed as we speak, and look forward to the completion of that in 2026. And there also is landscaping, excuse me, and streetscape safety audit that was requested, and we've allocated funding for that as it relates to Drew Park. So I will pause with any questions.
Any questions from board members?
I'm curious, because that percentage of the tax and TIF money was so big. Would you attribute that because of economic development, or the fact that most of these properties are not homesteaded, so they actually, the tax base grows?
Yeah, the residential component in Drew Park is a lot less as it may be in East Tampa or other areas, so yes.
Yeah, I was surprised to see such a significant growth in Drew Park, so, okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Okay, thank you, sir. Go ahead.
And then I'll move on to East Tampa. And as you're familiar, East Tampa is the largest CRA, not only in the city of Tampa, but in the state of Florida at 7.5 square miles. The increase was at 12% for FY26. And as I kind of alluded to during the before lunch, the East Tampa CAC felt compelled to increase the amount or recommended amount above and beyond the 30% for affordable housing initiatives and those line items that are there. We also have a few programs that, as we've been assembling properties in East Tampa the last couple of years, Destinations Church in Southeast Seminole Heights, or exactly 1202 East Curtis Street, for future development. And as we were talking about RFPs, that one is currently being developed by Ms. Parks and her team. We have the Gator Building site, which was purchased back in 2019, 2020, and we're looking to redevelop those parcels as well. As you may recall, I believe a month or so ago, you all actually approved the purchase of 2 other sites adjacent to that location. And we've had some community engagement with the East Tampa CAC related to that, and we'll follow up later this fall with some more renderings and things of that nature. Another priority, and we've put money in the budget, I believe it was 1.5 was allocated, and related to the stormwater pond on North 22nd, and that is something that we're working with our stormwater department and Parks and Recreation as it relates to design and build out of that location. And also we have some ongoing conversations with the CAC, and we have hired a consultant to do wayfinding signs in East Tampa. And so we've had a couple of meetings with the East Tampa CAC related to that as well. But the overall budget currently is projected to be at $14 million for the East Tampa CRA. And I'll pause for any questions.
Any questions, comments? Okay, continue, sir.
Thank you, and I will bring up Ms. Orr, Tampa Heights Riverfront.
Okay, so Tampa Heights Riverfront has a fairly small budget to work with because we do pay 74% back to the Community Development District where Waterworks is. So we do have a less amount of money to budget in Tampa Heights Riverfront. There was a 6% increase over fiscal year 25, but you can see that these numbers are fairly small because of the majority of that money, which is roughly $1.5 million on an annual basis. There's $1.6 million in the capital projects and infrastructure to account for the monies that we pay back to the Community Development District. So that one's short and sweet. And then I would like to call out that, and we'll talk about this on the last slides, that due to the fact of paying that 74% to the Community Development District, we can only afford to put in approximately 15% of affordable housing. So it's hard for us to achieve the required 30% in order to do other important projects to the community. And that includes Tampa Heights.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions on Tampa Heights? Okay, being none, we continue.
Okay, thank you. So I'm the closer, Brenda Thrower. I'm the CRA manager for West Tampa and Ybor City. I was supposed to follow Mr. Robinson today, so you would have heard this whole story beforehand, but he's going to be on with us next month. So talking about West Tampa, this is our second largest CRA and the youngest, established in 2015 and then expiring, of course, in 2043. From an increment standpoint, it's just shy of $10 million, a nice solid 10% increase from last year. Moving into the budget. Here we have how the budget's laid out. O&A, that's our cost share for West Tampa at $697. When it comes to professional services, we do have money in that line item already, so we didn't allocate any more, and we're also going to be working on the CRP this year. So we already secured that funding under that line item. So that one's no additional funding is needed there. For communications and outreach, we already had money saved up in that item as well. So we got a couple hundred thousand dollars in community outreach, so no additional money was needed there. For redevelopment investment, West Tampa's been doing really well. They've been really participating in the grant programs that we have available, the commercial grant programs. And so the only item that really wasn't that funded was pre-development grants, so we added the money for $390,000 into that line item. Affordable housing, that's our 30% right there. And again, West Tampa has been chipping away at affordable housing and also from strategic acquisitions. So we just purchased the Cypress Street properties last month. So we're looking for other opportunities with strategic acquisitions. Moving into, oh, I'm sorry, I skipped ahead. Capital improvement projects, very active CIP program going on in infrastructure. We are in the process of really working on almost 5 parks in West Tampa, including Salsinas, Ray Park, Freedom Park, and then the Fremont Linear Park, opening up those cross streets, and we have money set aside for MLK. So there's a lot of activity with parks, as well as mobility. The quick build along Main Street was completed, so we've got money there to also keep working along with projects along Main Street. When it comes to transportation and mobility, this is year 2 of the West Riverwalk, we'll call it the Tampa Multimodal Network Project. So that's a $10 million project over 3 years. We're in year 2, and that's what that funding represents right there, that allocation of 2.3. And then community policing, we don't have a lot of money in that category. We didn't allocate any this year, but we do have about $300,000 sitting in an account to do some community policing initiatives in the district. Historic preservation, there's a 0 there, but we actually encumbered money from last year for a cultural resource study to update the historic properties within the CRA of West Tampa, so that's going to be going on. And then quality of life, this is everything for district improvements. This is where we would have opportunities for new projects throughout the year, as well as we have a Main Street Clean Team and alleyway clearing program going on. And that sums up the $9.6 million for West Tampa. Any questions?
Board Member Clendenin.
Well, I mean, I think we saved the best for last as far as, y'all can seem to be able to take a little and spread it and go a long way in what you're doing in West Tampa. I think that it's obvious it's one of the more exciting areas of Tampa as far as what's happening. And you talk about a mixed community of mixed income and folks. There's a lot of exciting opportunities here. You know, it's a shame, and I'll hit on this because obviously y'all have heard me, whine about it before. But that 30% set aside in our areas, that the dirt is just so expensive that it's not fiscally responsible for us to do. It's a shame we can't use that money in the CRAs for money from the general fund and then use general fund money in places like this. Because if we could make, like Main Street in West Tampa, it could be mixed income, and there's all kinds of exciting things that we can do in that area. East Tampa, the same kind of thing. There's all kinds of great things that we could do and provide housing. And both of these areas are basically downtown. I mean, for large metropolitan cities, they are downtown. They're just on the outskirts of downtown. So they're the proximity to our urban core, and for workforce, it's so close, and we can provide transportation back and forth. And like with Route 1, what we're doing, we could do something similar into West Tampa to get to the workforce areas. I would really just love to see us revisit those numbers so that we could get the biggest bang for the buck, the biggest return on the investment for the citizens of the city of Tampa, if we could do some kind of shuffling to be able to take some general fund money from these areas that maybe we're spending, spend them into West Tampa, spend them in East Tampa, get those better projects going for smaller amounts of money, and use that money in those expensive areas to do those mobility projects and all those things that cost a lot of money. And I love the fact that by the way, the Tampa multimodal, please let's start talking at that, because it's just a small portion of that is on the river. This is a mobility project that's going to be able to help connect neighborhoods, move people through, build bike walks and sidewalks for people, to be able to move through neighborhoods. And so I think it was from the beginning, it was a mistake to label it as a river walk, because that's just a small portion of it. It's so much bigger than that. So I love that we continue to refer to it as that. Other than that, again, like I say, kudos. I think this is a really good budget that I'm looking at in West Tampa. I think you've spread the money in appropriate ways. You know, there's a lot of opportunities there for, you know, people to improve their homes, you know, because we still have a lot of senior citizens living in that area. You know, we could do some, you know, grants and help people out, and I love it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
There
Board
has
Member
been some
Moran.
development started on, just off of Howard on Main Street to the east of it. It's really, really looking nice, and I'm sure that you'll see some capital now from both sides to continue that, because they're really looking nice. And all the apartments are being filled up all through that area. Yeah, it's looking really, really nice. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much.
That Gator building property and the things we're doing there, you know I'm excited about all that. So let's double down on that and continue moving forward on those projects. I think those are great opportunities too. So, you know, we need to bring those services and this housing to these areas and create little downtown districts, and let's try to make that happen.
Okay, thank
Anyone
you
else?
so much.
Yeah,
Keep going? Okay, last
Yes, ma'am.
one.
Go for it.
We are ending with Ybor. Is the slides, did y'all forget about Ybor? Ybor, yes, with the Y always puts us at the end here. So one of the oldest CRAs, you know, right behind, of course, sorry, let me back up one. 1987 was established, expiring. We're in our last 10 years of Ybor City. This is Ybor 1. And in terms of tax increment, it's $4 million. It's not a lot of money, but it's money. So we just made it over the $4 million mark. We've been holding at 3.9 for a long time. So, but it's a steady 10% increase from last year. In terms of projects going on in Ybor, again, we start off with O&A, that's our cost share. Professional services, that we are going to be doing the CRP update for Ybor too. Even though we have 10 years left, we're definitely going to, you know, consolidate all the plans of the past and really update the CRP. Communications and outreach, you see this as actually a lesser item. Last year, you probably saw around $100,000. We have less because we're moving into this shared contract to do Tampa CRA with an outside firm. So we're all kind of cost sharing in that, so that's a little bit less. Moving into redevelopment investment, that's grants. Ybor has participated in the commercial grant program. Right here, we've added $30,000 just towards the pre-development line item, since we didn't have a lot in that line item. That's more of a newer program. Affordable housing, we have 30%. If you want to know, it's $3.3 million from last year. You add this on, so we're a little over, almost $5 million in affordable housing. We're looking for strategic opportunities to buy property, but there hasn't been a lot of activity from the programs, just mainly because it's a commercial district. Ybor 1. Capital improvement projects, y'all know the big one. It's the Ybor City Bricken Program. We are going to do the next 2 blocks. We've been kind of having to bank some money from last year. The next 2 blocks, we will be moving east, so it'll be between 17th and 19th Street. Had to do some design work. The intersections needed some design, so that'll be next project that priority project that we're working on, along with Centennial Park. That's also, these are things that are going to be put into the CRP, as well as some signage upgrades. So those are kind of the main things in capital improvement projects. Transportation mobility, that number is the streetcar allocation. Every year, we have set aside, really it's $225,000 for Ybor City, but we split it up between Ybor 1 and 2, so the $188,000 is dedicated to the streetcar. Community policing, $20,000. We do support the Ybor Innovative Squad and the Ybor Task Force, roughly around $250,000 a year. We already have money in that account. There was no need to really put additional money, so we're just adding about a little about $20,000 more to true that up. And then historic preservation, I mean, we don't really have a specific project for that. Every grant we do in Ybor City, because it's an old district, a commercial grant is going to go to a historic building, but we don't really separate it out that way. But we do have that line item because it's consistent with all the other budgets. And then finally, quality of life and community improvement. Ybor City is very program heavy in terms of the Ybor City Yes team, the clean team, the intensive pressure washing team. I get compliments all the time how clean Ybor City is, and it's very rewarding. So we do keep it clean and we keep it safe, and our YES team works very close with our police department and code enforcement and all those agencies. So that pretty much wraps up Ybor 1. Are there any questions?
Any questions? Comments? Okay, none? Go ahead.
All right, last but not least is Ybor 2, the surrounding area of Ybor 1,
And
which
if
was
I
a
may, Ms. Storer, I'm going to turn off your timer, just, I mean, you're fine, but
I'll go
no
quick.
timer, just because.
All right, thank you. Ybor 2, the surrounding area that was established in 2004 is actively growing. We had 11% increase from last year, so we're still around $2 million, $2.1 million in TIF revenue for next year. Things that we'll be getting involved with here are, again, we have our O&A, line item cost share, professional services. That's the contribution that Ybor 2 will be putting towards the new RFP that we'll be working for Tampa CRA, the communications contract. The $50,000 is for the CRP. That's the community redevelopment plan update. We will be engaging just one firm for Ybor 1 and 2, but at the end of the day, we end up with 2 plans. We have to by the state statute. So that's how we're approaching that, but that would be their contribution. And then the communications and outreach, we have $20,000 set aside there to participate in that contract. Redevelopment investment, we put $63,544 towards the pre-development grants. We had some healthy balances in all the other commercial standard grants and special projects, so we're good there. Affordable housing is 30%. That's our allocation. And if you want to look at where we're at with that, we have in the rollover about $1.5 million for Ybor 2. We do have some strong leads on some property that we may be able to acquire, and if so, we will bringing it forward to you after it goes through the CAC. So we're looking at some strategic acquisitions. And then capital projects and infrastructure, that is really the bricking project again. There are 4 blocks of 7th Avenue that are in Ybor 2 that are east of 22nd Street. So we're actually kind of banking money to be able to complete those blocks when we start moving down the avenue and we get there. We have about $400,000 in the account right now. And also we'll be doing some district signage upgrades up in near the German American Club and that little pocket. Transportation mobility, that's the streetcar, that's the $37,000 that we put together, contribute to the streetcar each year. That's their allocation. And then community policing, we did add $10,000 here. There was a lot of additional code enforcement activity, patrolling of the Ybor parking lots, and they are south of 7th Avenue, and they're actually in Ybor 2. So we put a little money there to help out with that extra, those extra services. And then, again, historic preservation. We don't have anything specific in that line item because everything we do in Ybor, it seems like it's historic preservation. And then quality of life, there are YES Team services in the surrounding area, in the neighborhood. They mainly handle landscaping, streetscape, and one of the things the community wanted was some sidewalks. So we have a line item under quality of life that we could actually engage and do some infill of sidewalks and so forth. And that pretty much sums up Ybor 2. Any questions?
Any questions? Board Member Clinton?
Kudos on the clean team for all the CRAs that have them and they do, because I think it really does make a huge difference when you know, Tampa looks good. And a lot of that is because of those clean teams. They do a great job. I forgot to ask a question about Central Park. Is there a plan or a budget for the bandshell and Perry Harvey Park?
Yes.
Bandshell.
Yes, we're actually having conversations with Parks and Recreation, and I did have some previous conversations with the former director prior to him transitioning from the city. But
that we can set aside some CRA money as we start budgeting.
We're looking to work with them to see what we can do to bring that into fruition.
Okay, just didn't want. Okay, but I mean, we're in this budget talk. Is there anything in this budget that's set aside that would be help fund that along or help for multi-year funding?
Not at this point, but we do have available funding in neighborhood infrastructure that could be reallocated toward that effort.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Anyone else on this? And thank you, Councilman Clendenin, for mentioning it. And I know Board Member Maniscalco had also motioned for that. because obviously for the folks who don't know, I mean, the big issue there is for the late Councilwoman Gwen Henderson, and I know there have been talks on naming, I guess, not renaming, but naming it, and all that, and I know that we want to honor her memory and her legacy. I have a dumb question, this facility that Board Member Clendenin was just talking about, I mean, you know what? It's so dumb, I'm not even going to say it. I was going to say, how long do you think it would take? But how would you know? So disregard. Okay, great. So I'll just withdraw that. Anything further, sir?
Yes, we have one more component of the budget, which is the housing component, and Ms. Parks will speak to that. We could get the
Good afternoon, board members. So as you can see here, the 30% allocation for 2026 goes as follows. For Central Park, we have $604,000. For Channel CRA, we have roughly around $4 million. For downtown, we'll have about $8.9 million. Then for Drew Park, we'll have about $1 million. You see here for East Tampa, about $4.3 million. Just as mentioned previously by Courtney about Tampa Heights, this is about 15% set aside, so we're at $335,000. West Tampa CRA, we're about $2.9 million, and then Ybor CRA combined about $1.9 million. So a total of $26 million allocated for affordable housing. The next slide is just letting you know just the specifics. As you know, the need for affordable housing initiatives, which as you know, that's all 5 of them, infilled, UMAID, strategic acquisitions, rehab, and also down payment assistance. And East Tampa is a great need. So the CAC mentioned increasing the allocation to about 46%, which is referenced there at $6.7 million. And then you have Tampa Heights, again, this $335,000. We just wanted to explain to the public again, due to our contribution to the CDD, we can only set aside about 15% for that district. Any questions?
Any questions from board members? Board Member Clendenin?
I don't support changing, making it a requirement allocation, because I don't support the 30% requirement. I think this should be a budgetary item and be flexible with the actual needs and the fiscal responsibility of budgeting. So while I do support allocating 46% in the budget, I don't necessarily it needs to be a requirement, because I think each board member needs to make that determination based on how the budgets are presented. On the, I think it's interesting because the Tampa Heights example is a classic example why an arbitrary number like 30% just doesn't work. Because so we've actually put a requirement on a CRA that is fiscally impossible for them to meet. So I think I get that my good friend Mr. Dingfelder and a couple other councilpersons thought this was a good idea at the time, but I think as it's matured and moved on, we probably should revisit this at some point, because again, there's 2 great examples. We want to put more money in East Tampa. Tampa Heights doesn't work, and we're kind of boxing in money that could be higher and better use in others that maybe we could, again, swap out for general fund money and move some money back into these areas where we could afford, like, West Tampa, East Tampa, where we could afford to build much more for much less. So that's my thing. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, anything further, sir?
No, sir, that concludes our presentation related to the FY26 budget.
Any comments or anything from council members? Thank you, sir. We appreciate you and all your wonderful staff. So, correct me if I'm wrong, folks, that's the end of this agenda. And now it's time for motions and everything. Board Member Clendenin.
Just a couple of announcements. One, actually more particularly described, I don't know if everybody got this email, but it was just addressed to me. There's going to be a controlled burn tomorrow off of Bruce B. Downs, which will definitely affect probably if the wind is blowing right in your district. So people know if you smell smoke in there, there's a controlled burn up there to south of Bruce B. Downs in that big swampy wooded area. And also good news. So I put it on my social media page, but I had a meeting with the mayor yesterday, and the mayor's agreed to restore the full budget from FY24 money for paving for the city of Tampa. So that will go back to the original request that we had. So moving forward, so I'm happy about that, and I appreciate the mayor's consideration and the administration working with us to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Board Member Maniscalco. Board Member Miranda. I actually have a few, and I don't know who I give this to. I guess to you. I know, right? So I have a couple from Board Member Hurtak. A motion to cancel the October 16th CRA meeting, as it is the week of the FRA conference.
We have a motion from Councilmember Vieira, second from Councilmember Clendenin. All in favor?
Aye. Thank you. Then a motion to schedule a special call CRA meeting to address the CRA housing matrix. And I guess we can come up with dates. And I would assume, Kelly, this is a request for to get with staff on potential dates, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. We have a motion from Councilmember Vieira, and we have a second from Councilmember Clendenin. All in favor? Aye. Anything else?
Yes. Then the last one is, this one's mine. Did you need to say something?
Well, I just wanted to say that was on, we were asking for, or the request was made for the workshop related to the housing, and it's probably definitely something that we need to have a conversation with the board members and looking at potential dates, and we will reach out to your respective staff moving forward.
And then my next motion is something that I've been toying around with. I wanted to, frankly, wait until after session to propose this, but you look at a lot of our CRAs are very diverse and they're very different. Obviously, you have East Tampa, you have Ybor City, you have West Tampa, then you've got ones like downtown and Channelside, but they all deal with blight. Which all allegedly, which all comes down to an issue, frankly, of equity and justice. I mean, that's what CRAs are meant for in many, many ways. And I want to propose that staff come back with a report on the feasibility of having what I would call an equity seat on each one of our CRAs. We can define what that is. It could be again, we can work on the specifics of it. It could be a civil rights organization, it could be an equity organization, and so forth. But I really, really think that every CRA, one of our CRAs, should have a seat that is designated to an organization. And again, we can better define this, that promotes equity and justice here in Tampa. I think that's something that will be consistent with what CRAs are supposed to be for. And again, we can fully discuss it, and I can have it come back in November or whatever. I don't know if council or CRA members have any questions on that.
Well, I don't know, do we have any inequity now?
I think so, yeah. I mean,
Well, I mean,
Also, because you made the motion for it.
Well,
Yeah.
I think, I'm not sure. I think that because the example in Tampa fits with the model you just described, but CRAs in general, if you look around in certain other areas, maybe not as much. Tampa's not necessarily the example of what a CRA is. Maybe it's more the norm than not the norm, but I think there's other areas that CRAs are applicable that don't concern the folks that live in our CRAs here in Tampa. I don't necessarily know if I can see that, and that's not CRA, it's CACs you're talking about, not CRA.
no, CRA, yep.
There's no CRA board, the only CRA board is us, you're not.
I'm sorry, CACs, excuse me. Yes, sir, CACs. Thank you for the clarification. And so again, all that I want is for this to come back just for a discussion. It's not to implement it, just for feasibility, and that's all.
I think we had this discussion about these boards and the composition of boards and size of boards. This battle was kind of fought.
How about I do this? Since we only have 4 board members, I'll return this next month.
Good idea.
Yeah, because that's probably smarter, and then y'all can think about it.
Maybe after the District 5 seat is filled.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Well, I mean, look, we can motion for it to come back after the District CR, because I wouldn't have that discussion until the District 5 person is. So what I'll do, if I may, is I'll motion for this for next month, but it will come back if I get the majority, when we have that filled. So yes, sir. So that's it.
Motion to receive and file?
Yes, sir. Motion made by board member, yes. I didn't, no, we're gonna wait to have a full board. Yeah, for that, or fuller, I guess, if you will. So we have a motion by board member Maniscalco, second, I think, by board member Miranda. All in favor? Aye. We are finished. Thank you, board, and thank you, staff.